And we are live.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Gathering Paracast here on the Cryptovania TV network. I'm Stephanie.
And I'm Heidi, and we're super excited tonight to have Bob Peterson with us. Welcome, Bob.
Hi, you guys. It said my mic was muted. It's not something that I consciously did. But hi, Heidi and Stephanie. It's good to be back on the show.
Yeah, we're glad to have you back.
Hey.
It's always fun talking with you.
Yeah.
So
I'm thinking it's been about a year, Bob, since you were on last.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably been about a year. Yeah, and since that time, I've retired from my day job. I used to be a computer tech, and so now I retired. I live in the Villages in Florida, which is a retirement community, largest in the United States. And I've been roped into several things down here. There's lots of different groups and interest in the topic of out of body and other paranormal things. And just trying to take it a little easy, winding down from, I've been retired about a year now. And so that's been interesting.
How do you like it? Or do you like it?
I love retirement. The problem is I thought I'd have more time, and in reality I've got less time because I don't know why, but it's like really easy to overextend here. And they talked me into becoming the president of Writers League of the Villages, which is a big organization for writers, authors, and whatnot. And so I'm now president of that WLOV. And so I've been busy, scrambling, doing those kind of things. And I'm also been giving some presentations down here in Florida and stuff like that as well. So yeah, I've been busy. I took a year off to write a new book, and that book is a novel. I decided when I retired that I was going to take some time off and try to write fun stuff that I want to write that comes to me intuitively. And so I started on this book. It's called Windwalker, and it's now published and available. I don't know if you can see that.
Yep, there it is.
Anyway, it's kind of an unusual book because, like I said, I'm kind of an intuitive writer, and so I kind of sit down and write what comes to me. And in this particular case, I'm a Minnesota born and raised, and what came to me is a story about it's kind of a coming of age story about a 15-year-old girl who's half Caucasian and half Ojibwe Indian. And the information just kept flowing and flowing and flowing. And it's like the story wouldn't leave me alone until I got it down on paper. So, and naturally this girl she faces all kinds of adversity, and she uses out-of-body experiences to track down a murderer and find the hostage that was taken and all of this stuff. So it's kind of her adventures. But there's kind of another element too. This takes place in 1864, but there's also an element, two other people in 2024, and they are connected through time. And there's an interesting twist because you see how they interact with one another, and their stories get intertwined and come together. So it was a lot of fun to write, and I kind of got that out of my system. But I had fun with the out-of-body sequences or whatever.
That sounds very cool.
It was a lot of fun, and I hope people like it. It's it's a novel, unlike most of my other books. I've only written one other novel, and the other four is they're nonfiction. So a couple years ago, I started a sequel to Hacking the Out-of-Body Experience, which is probably my most successful book right now. And it's still very popular. And but since that was published in late 2018, I think it was. So it's been a long time since it was written. It's still very on point today, and it still has a lot of very useful information. It's highly rated, but since I wrote it, I've done a little bit of research on more tricks and techniques and that. And I've been collecting a new out-of-body procedures to induce the phenomenon and all of this stuff. And so I've had a lot of fun doing that. But after a while, it kind of like seemed like a lot of work. A lot of this information, I should mention, is available on my website. I also gave myself like a month to totally rewrite my website, which I did. So anyway, I've been busier than ever right now, but I've got all this information collected for a sequel to Hacking the Out-of-Body Experience. I just need to find the time to compile it and put it all together and organize it where it doesn't sound, right now it's just, loose and choppy stuff all over the place. So I need to sit down and organize that. So.
Mm-hmm.
Well, so I have a couple of things here. I think to write another book, you probably just have to get a full-time job so that you have more
Right.
time to get your other stuff done, because it sounds like that was working for you. But second of all, I need to find out. So you have other techniques, you said. Now, are these techniques you've used, or have you gathered from other people, or both?
Well, some of each actually, but like, well, here's, let me take a look here. There are, I've been gathering some techniques from different people. They've been posting. There's actually a Facebook group that I frequent. I'll go out there every day, called Astral Projection Dash Techniques, and it's become the biggest and best of the Facebook groups related to astral projection and out-of-body experience. And it has a great team of admins. I count myself as one of them, and they don't let riffraff in, or if people sneak in, they get shut down right away. But anyway, Astral Projection Techniques has a lot of people are posting, oh, I figured this out, and this is how this works, and try this technique, and things like that. And so it's kind of a very useful resource for all people interested in the out-of-body experience. So there are new techniques out there and people helping people, and it's a very supportive community. It's a really great. The funny thing is, it's got almost 125,000 people, members.
I saw that. I'm on it right now. That's great.
125,000. So it's like, wow. I mean, for a while there, we were like admitting members as quickly as we could, and you have to, we're picky about who we let in. We probably reject more than half the people who ask to get in because they don't agree to the group rules or whatever. And we want them to agree that they're going to be respectful and all of this stuff. Because last thing we want is bickering and people, slamming each other or belittling or whatever. We want to be a very supportive community. And so far it's been that. It's a great group of people. But,
well, I'm joining right now.
Wow.
It sounds like a really good group, and if it's well managed, that makes it fun. The people having, interesting information to contribute. That's so cool. So
and I mean, you get a lot of people in there of all skill levels, and some of them say, well, I'm a newbie and I don't know, how do I start? And then you've got people who are very advanced who said, I've been doing this for years, but this strange thing happened to me. Has anyone else, had this happen? I mean, just yesterday, there was a guy on the Astral Projection Techniques group, and he said, does anyone out there ever hear like what sounds like radio announcing in their head during the experience when it's, when you're trying to get into that hypnagogic state, trying to walk the borderline between waking and sleeping to induce the out-of-body. And it's like, I described just that in the very first out-of-body experience that I ever had back in 1979. It was a very wild experience and very vivid and very convincing, very realistic. But one of the features is when I was going into that condition, the out-of-body condition, I actually heard what sounded like a hockey game playing on the radio, and I've never heard of any other astral projectors talking about stuff like that, or at least if it is, it's very rare. And I pride myself on having one of the largest collection of out-of-body and astral projection books in the world. I've got like 250 books on just that topic, and I've
Mm-hmm.
is crazy. But hopefully now that the holidays are over with and now that the book's out and all of that, I keep telling myself I'm going to find more time to get things like that done.
Well, good luck with that.
Yeah. Doesn't work.
Yeah, and, Heidi, I don't like your suggestion of getting another job because
I know. That's a terrible idea. It's terrible. I agree. Do not listen to my first suggestion. Okay, so tell us what else you're working on. You said you've got some other projects, which is also probably what's taking up all this time and creating more work, but let's hear it.
Yeah, well, like I told you about the writers group, the Writers League of the
Mhm.
Villages, and I told you about the sequel to Hacking the Out of Body Experience, probably called More OBE Hacks. And I've been doing a lot of research on that. I told you about the website that I completely rewrote from scratch. But I've got I'm working on a collection of short stories too, which is obviously fiction, and just doing more research as well. Getting out on the golf course and golfing. I've also been invited on several podcasts and shows to talk about my books and the out of body experience and all of that. I am talking February next month. I'm giving a presentation on developing intuition. I wrote a book a long time ago called Answers Within. And it basically talks about how to develop psychic abilities and your intuition by learning to communicate with your inner voice. And this is something that kind of happened to me almost by accident. I want to say by accident, but I described it in my very first book. And I think what happened there is I was trying to reach these out of body states, right? And in doing so, I had developed these forms of meditation, and I was listening to all kinds of strange music and doing all these things, meditations and everything. And this inner voice thing just kind of developed as a result of that, as a result of my experimenting with altered states of consciousness. And so I wrote a chapter in my first book about it. And I called that chapter The Small, Still Voice Within. And I had a lot of email. People said, well, how can I do this myself? Because it sounds fascinating. And my pat answer was, well, you don't want to rush into this kind of thing because, it's really kind of a delicate thing to describe. And I don't want people to misinterpret what I'm saying. And I don't want people to do it, half-assed. Because you're just going to get yourself frustrated and get misinformation, and you got to really know about it. But the thing is, I always promised them, well, someday I'm going to write a book on how to develop your inner voice. And that's what Answers Within is. And so my point is next month, February, I'm giving a talk to Del Webb, which is another retirement community that has a fairly large paranormal community there. And they have a psychic development group. And I've been asked to go over there and give them a presentation on developing your intuition and all of that. So I'm going to be doing that. And then coming up in March, I'm speaking at another group called Psychics, Mediums, and Ghost Stories here in the Villages. There's just always, and then of course I'm working on presentations for all of these things. And so it's, lining up presentations and stuff like that. It's just been like never ending. So, yeah. So anyway, I keep doing research on it. Right now, I'm reading a book by Gerard Pratt, and it's on astral projection. And I got a stack of about 24 books on astral projection that I'm lined up to read, but finding the time to read them is a very big challenge. So
you don't have any time left.
I've been doing various podcasts, and the astral projection techniques group actually has a podcast, and I have an episode out there where they interviewed me as well. and look for some more of those podcasts as well. Those aren't video podcasts, but you can listen to them on Spotify or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Wow.
So,
Yeah. I can see why you don't have enough time.
Yeah.
yeah.
I'm tired just listening to all of that.
And it seems
Yeah,
we never have enough. I never have enough time to read either, right? You know,
it's all
by the
good.
time I sit down with the book, I'm too tired. You know, it just is what it is.
Yeah, well, it's kind of like astral projection. If you sit down and try to induce the experience at night, before bed, you're probably going to fall asleep because we're conditioned. We're so used to falling asleep at that hour that we naturally would fall asleep during practice. So it's helpful to learn to extend your awareness into those sleep states, but it's also very useful to do those practices, like in the morning if you can, if you're not, rushing off to work or whatever. And for that reason, I used to do a lot of my out of body experiments on the weekends when I wasn't, when I didn't have to work. So
Yeah, that's a good idea.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of
Yeah.
course, there's all the news items and stuff like that. I heard that Eric von Däniken, the guy who wrote Chariots of the Gods, he just passed away a couple days ago. I don't think was it Monday? I think it was Monday. I don't know if you guys had heard that.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know
Yeah,
that.
yeah, that's pretty crazy. And I heard that Dave Schrader had bought the Palmer House in Minnesota, which I think you guys were. I was there. My wife and I were with you guys and the rest of your team and Jerry's team and other people when we did a big ghost investigation down at the Palmer House. That's an amazing
No,
place.
I think it was Waverly Hills, Bob, because I've never
Oh,
been
we
to the
did that.
Palmer
We
House.
did that one too.
We did Waverly Hills, but I've never been to the Palmer House.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh,
So,
okay. There was a group of a large group of people. I thought you were among them, but maybe not.
well,
I know I've done a bunch of events there.
yeah. It'll be interesting to see. I know our
But
team is interested in doing something up there this year. So we'll see what happens. We have yet to plan out the year. We're trying to get a meeting together. You know how that goes.
Mhm.
But yeah, I think that'll be fun. But we have a couple of comments and questions here. Nicole is asking, what is the saddest memory for you from out of body experiences?
Saddest memory.
Do you have one?
I'm not sure I have a sad memory from
Well,
out
that's
of body
good.
experiences at all. Um, there, I've had some very surprising results because, um, I think about after my father passed on, I met him in an out of body state. I wrote about that in my first book, Out of Body Experiences, How to Have Them and What to Expect. And I talked about that. And in two different experiences, I met my father. In the first one, in one of them, I was very logical and unemotional, and I spoke to him very clearly. And he said, you guys are making too big of a deal out of my death and all of this stuff. And it was a very unemotional thing. And then in another out of body experience in which I saw my father after he passed, it was like it was like completely the opposite. I was all emotions. So there's this whole deal in an out of body where it's like your left brain and right brain are, either they don't work quite the same way as they do in normal life. So in this other experience, when I saw my dad, I was just like, I became hysterical and very emotional and broken up and all of this. So I wouldn't exactly call that sadness or anything like that, but it was interesting anyway. I think I've spoken in the past about how sometimes in an out-of-body experience, found myself very right-brained, emotional-based. I'll see an object and I won't be able to identify it, and then I'll force myself to do math problems, and I'll do math problems in my head just to force my analytical side of my brain to engage. And then when that engages, then things come into more clear focus. And it's interesting, but the brain definitely, the mind works differently over there. But no, almost all of my experiences have been very positive and uplifting. There have been a couple of, I've been doing this for many years now, since 1979, and there's only a handful have been, kind of questionable or scary or whatever.
Interesting. So Trost is asking, have you ever combined out-of-body experiences with float therapy or sensory deprivation?
That's a very good question. I spent a couple winters in Austin, Texas, and they had there was a float tank place there, and I tried to induce an out of body there, and I just couldn't. I found the water on my skin was too distracting, and I know it's supposed to be sensory deprivation, but it kind of had the opposite effect. That warm water against my skin just didn't feel right, and I couldn't get into it enough. For me, it works best to be like in total darkness. And some people need a little bit of ambient light, just a little bit. But I like, like complete darkness as much as possible.
So I'm curious because you talked about your brain not working the same as it does here. So in one aspect, you were very clear mentally and void of emotion. And then it was the opposite when you went in a different time, and both times sounds like with your dad. How does it feel when you go into an out of body experience? Does it feel like you're slightly different human or person, or do you find that was an anomaly and most of the time you feel like you do when you're here?
Most of the time I have a normal body schema. So I have what they call, what I think of as Schrodinger's astral body. If I don't think about my hands, I won't have hands, or it seems like I don't have hands. But if I think, oh, I should look at my hands, then they'll suddenly be there and I can look at them, that kind of stuff. So my mind is normally very analytical in real life, usually very analytical in an out-of-body experience as well. Sometimes I feel in the experience kind of fuzzy. I mean, it's like, in the morning when I haven't had coffee, that kind of thing. And other times I've had experiences where it's been like hyper conscious, where I'm like amazingly conscious. I've talked a couple times about experiences in which it just seemed almost more real than waking life. So. Yeah, so it varies from greatly.
Do you because you mentioned different techniques, do you think that would be why? Do you have different feels in there?
It's a good question. I really don't know. I know some of the out-of-body authors. I know one of the, way back in the 1800s, a guy by the name of Oliver Fox wrote a book called Astral Projection, and it was one of the earliest books ever written on the topic. And that was a pseudonym. But he had a technique called the pineal doorway that he used, where he tried to focus all of his awareness on the pineal gland, which is a tiny little pineapple-shaped gland in the center of your head. It's like the only part of the brain that's not duplicated into two halves, so left brain, right brain. This is a single, and it's about the size of a pea. And so he would try to focus his awareness on that. And he had incredible experiences with that. And other times he entered the out-of-body state through lucid dreaming. So he would induce a lucid dream state, and he would realize that he was dreaming, and then he would transition from the lucid dream into an out-of-body state or astral projection. And he noted that consciousness is somewhat different.
Did we lose him?
Uh-oh.
All that. So, but not many people have talked about that kind of thing.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm just curious as to what would make it different each time, or does the season affect it? Does the time of day affect it? Does your technique affect it? Does your mental attitude or your emotional attitude affected? Like, it's so interesting.
For me, the answer is no. Nothing really affects it much, other than I believe strongly that there's a big connection between the brain and the gut microbiome, and scientists are just uncovering the mysteries of that now. Turns out with the gut microbiome, for people who don't know, is all this bacteria that lives inside your intestines. And what scientists have found is that there's more non-human DNA in your guts than there is human DNA in your body. And so there's this huge influence between the brain and the gut. And I do know that, like, if I have trouble with my bowels, like if I get constipated or if I have diarrhea, something like that, out of body is very difficult for me. But if everything's working normally, it seems much better. I've done extensive studying of what works and what doesn't. Cycles. Some people claim the cycles of the moon, that it's easier to do on the full moon. Other people say that your quality of your experience depends on which chakra you extend your consciousness through. But I've really never focused on chakras or anything like that. To me, it's always this whole body feeling of my whole body awareness is like coming out of my physical body, right? So it's not just, like going into a chakra and coming back out or anything like that. To me, it's a whole body sensation.
Okay, there's quite a long question here, so I'm gonna read it. It says,
Okay.
do you think a primordial structure has any effect on achieving OBE state? Robert Monroe describes laying in a head north position, just like the king's chamber in Egypt. You know what that means?
Yeah, I do know exactly what that means. Yeah, Robert Monroe basically said if you point your head to the north, that you have a better chance of having out of body experiences, and that worked for him. However, my first out of body experience I ever had, my head was pointed to the west and my feet were pointed to the east. So if I sat up, I'd be looking to the east. And that's where I had my first out of body experience. And that to me has always been my most successful direction. I've tried pointing my head to the north and all of these things, and it really hasn't made much difference. I've had much more success just pointing my head to the west. As far as pyramidal structures, I really don't think that has much influence on it. I think a lot of it is setting intent, and getting in the right state of mind, those kind of things. Just prepping yourself, the relaxation and the ability to retain awareness while your body goes to sleep, that kind of thing. And what that can do is it can not only induce out of body experiences, but it can also increase your psychic awareness as well. Because what I found is that after I had an out of body, there was like a 2-week period, and I think it varies from person to person, but for me, about a 2-week period in which I would be seemingly more psychic. And I don't consider myself a psychic, although we all have those abilities, I believe. But after an OBE, I would find myself like knowing what was going to come on the radio before I turned it on. And I would take the words out of people's mouths, right? I knew exactly what they were going to say, word for word. And they'd say, oh, you took the words right out of my mouth. That's exactly what I was going to say, word for word. So that kind of stuff would happen to me, for about 2.5 weeks. And then it kind of just trickled off and faded away. And I was just normal me again. So the OBEs can definitely help you fine tune psychically. If you're naturally psychic, that you probably don't have those issues. But for me, I wasn't born with natural psychic abilities, not any more than the average person anyway. So,
yeah,
interesting. I would think some of that, everybody having their own experiences, because each person is unique, it would be kind of like a fingerprint. Their out of body experience would be somewhat unique to them, which is why there isn't maybe a cookie cutter approach. Like, this is what works for this person, or this is what works for you. It works better. I mean, it's not that other things don't work. It's just, this is what works for you. That's easier. And this, so it might
Right.
be just, you know, based on you being you, and that's
Yeah,
what works. So
exactly. Scientists are starting to learn that it's not one size fits all for the human body. And it's the same way with diet. I mean, some people, you can have two people who are obese and trying to lose weight, and you can put them on the same exact calorie diet, and one will lose weight a lot quicker, and have them doing the same amount of exercise, all things the same, because what's different is their body type. And scientists are starting to learn that there are various body types. And if you put this person on this diet, they'll lose weight. If you put that person on a different diet, they'll lose weight. But, there's no one size fits all. And the same thing goes, I think, for out of body experiences. You have to, there's a lot of techniques out there. They're readily available on the internet. You can get tons of that information for free on my website, which is robertpeterson.org. And I got tons of tips and techniques. So the deal is to try some of the techniques on there, and try it for a week or maybe 2 weeks, and read the tips and techniques and try things. And if it doesn't work for you, throw that one out the door and try a different one. And what I also found too is that people change over time, and so what works today may not work tomorrow. My very first out-of-body experience, the first run-in I had with the vibrations, which is a precursor to the OBE, I was trying to use one of Robert Monroe's techniques from his book, Journeys Out of the Body. And I had immediate results, positive results. And I was like, oh boy, I'm going to do this again. Well, I tried it again and it didn't work a second time. And I have theories as to why it didn't work a second time, but it's like that kind of was the impetus for me to explore other techniques and find out what really works, what works for me. And some people need more of a visual imagination. Some people need more of an auditory imagination. But the trick to the whole thing is to basically knock your temporoparietal junction of the brain, your right TPJ, this area of the brain right here, back of the ear a little bit. That, I believe, is one of its responsibilities, is to tell you where you are and what orientation you're in and all of that stuff. And it's got this, what I call story of experience, right? And your job as an astral projector is to knock that thing off the rails, because once you knock that story of experience off the rails, then you can be in the out-of-body experience, and that's like a whole different story of experience. So you have to first smack yourself out of that experience. And to do that, different people need different tricks, because everyone's got their own stubborn programming, right?
So that's kind of like your tether to this plane of existence.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah.
You got to knock it loose to get out of here.
Yep. Some people are so focused on the physical world or whatever, or their thoughts, that they have trouble unfocusing. And I think that's a big part of it, is learning to change your focus out of this in the body thing. What's very helpful is to meditate, and to do relaxation exercises, and also do things like just quiet introspection. Take time to be alone by yourself. One of the out-of-body books that I read talks about this and emphasizes, the more I think about it, the more that's absolutely true. If you spend all your time with people, and all your time talking, and all your time focusing on what task you're doing, whether it be writing or working or golfing or bicycling or whatever, you're using hubs of the brain called the task positive network. So you're focused on a task. When you're doing quiet introspection and doing inner work, and not focused on the physical body and its needs and what's happening to it, your physical senses, then you're using the default mode network. And these are two networks that you switch one off, you switch the other on, and you keep going back and forth between task positive and the other one. And so it helps to spend that time in quiet introspection and just meditation, and even taking slow walks where you're just thinking deep thoughts to yourself, that kind of thing. Because that kind of gets you away from that task positive network and exercises your default mode network. And that's a useful skill. Also, things like playing video games, things like that, where you're changing your active story of experience from your in the body thing that you're doing to, like VR, virtual reality, or video games where your focus is on that little to control the character to run or jump or whatever. So those kind of things can be very useful as well. It's very complicated, and there's lots of techniques and tips out there. You just got to try a bunch and see what works for you.
It sounds like practice and patience.
Yes.
Absolutely. Yeah, it takes a lot of practice and patience. Yeah.
But worth it.
Yes.
And
sure.
I might add a lot of lost sleep, because a lot of people find that they have more out-of-body experiences when they have broken sleep. And so kind of a humorous side is a lot of people like when they have their first baby, they'll suddenly start having out-of-body experiences. Well, why is that? Well, because they're getting up in the middle of the night and interrupting their sleep to feed the baby and tend to the baby and all of this stuff. So that broken sleep can have a major impact, and people can start having OBEs because of it. So there's a lot of little tricks and things out there that you can do. And a lot of people, even if you don't have to have a baby to break your sleep up. There's a very common technique in the biz where it's called wake back to bed, where you set an alarm for like 3 a.m, and then you go to sleep. When the alarm goes off at 3 a.m, you get up and you just rouse yourself and make sure you're pretty wide awake, because then your brain has had a chance to clean itself and redevelop the chemicals, the neurotransmitters, rebalance all of that. But in 3 a.m, you're still very focused on the dream state or whatever. So you're kind of in that halfway state. And then what happens is you go back to bed and you focus on having an out-of-body experience, or do your practice then. The other thing you can do is when you wake up in the morning, try not to move your physical body, but instead focus on trying to have that out-of-body experience. Try to get your astral body to move. I developed a technique that I call the almost move technique. And it's like you're trying to move your body, your physical body. So it's like a physical motion, but you want to move it 0 millimeters. You don't want to really move it. You just want the intent of moving it. And that intent of moving your body physically can be enough to send your astral body out. So anyway, these are just some suggestions that people can try.
Awesome. And doable.
Well, yeah, absolutely. I think we need to have another show, because there are more questions, but I know we're over our 30-minute mark. So Bob,
Sorry.
I think we'll get you on again. We'll reschedule you for in a couple months. Does that sound good?
Yeah, sounds good. Always happy
Awesome.
to talk about it with you guys.
Yeah.
Well,
for
it's so
sure. This is very
interesting.
fun.
So
It is
interesting.
interesting. It is interesting. So, well, Bob, good luck writing the book and all these things that you've got going on. And we'll check back in with you in, maybe March or April, and get you back on and talk more about this, because there's definitely a lot of interest. The chat room's going crazy. So thank you so much.
All right. Well, thank you for having me on your show. I really enjoyed it, and we will talk to you next time.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Yep. Bye-bye.